Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in the national scene, do you know where your birth certificate is? Does it have a raised seal? If it lists your maiden name, can you produce your marriage license? These are the kinds of questions that could be key to proving you're an American citizen under a new executive order. Amy Kiley has more.
We should go to voter ID and just one other thing, proof of a thing called citizenship in the United States. Wouldn't that be nice?
An executive order President Donald Trump signed yesterday boosts proof of citizenship requirements for voting in federal elections. It faces legal hurdles, including a Supreme Court ruling that a generic voter registration form is sufficient. Plus, state and local officials run elections, not the federal government. Trump's order tries to overcome that by using funding threats as leverage.
I think it's a great executive order. It makes all the sense in the world.
Trump's allies are praising the move. Critics say it could disenfranchise some legitimate voters.
Democrats have fought this. They think it will cut down on voter turnout. It will suppress the vote. Fewer people will be able to get to the polls.
If you had to prove your citizenship to vote, here's what you'd have to do under the executive order. You could show your passport, military ID card, or qualifying state or federal photo ID. Otherwise, you'd need proof that complies with the Real ID Act of 2005. You could use your birth certificate if it meets requirements like having a raised seal. Other options include certificates of naturalization or citizenship, or a consular report indicating you were born abroad. If you've changed your name, you might need additional proof like a marriage license.
How simple does that sound?
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
When the next severe weather event happens, don't get caught in the dark. Power your kitchen, HVAC, and communication systems with a Jackery solar-capable generator. Just click on our YouTube affiliate shopping tab and you're on your way. And Husker fans, the Explorer series is perfect for tailgating.
Closer to home, multiple investigations are underway after a violent night in Omaha. Police responded to two separate shooting scenes, both in North Omaha. Authorities say two people were hospitalized after a shooting in the area of 47th and Laurel Avenue. Police at the scene said the two shooting victims were said to be in serious condition. Authorities also said a 6-year-old at the scene was grazed by a bullet but did not need to be hospitalized. Police said as of Wednesday morning, no arrests had been made.
We're still investigating who's responsible for it, and detectives are here to work all of that out right now. We're looking at all of that, whether there's connections between that and the previous shootings that we've had earlier tonight.
As for that previous shooting, it happened about 3 hours earlier Tuesday, just west of Carter Lake. Authorities say one victim had been shot in the face. Police told our news partners at WOWT News that the victim was awake and speaking at the scene. They were hospitalized and are expected to survive. No arrests in that shooting had been reported either. The city of Norfolk plans to have its next police chief picked before the end of spring. Norfolk City Administrator Scott Cordes released the timeline Wednesday for the city to select its next police chief. Cordes says the Civil Service Commission will conduct the first interviews in early April. 3 finalists will then get second-round interviews with Norfolk's mayor and 4 members of the city council. Cordes says city staff will also get a chance to provide feedback on candidates in an open forum before Cordes makes the final decision by May 30th. Lieutenant Brian Ty and Captain Mike Bauer have been managing the department in the interim. The city's previous chief, Don Miller, stepped down in December after agreeing to a settlement with the city. That followed an investigation into the Norfolk Police Division's work environment. The U.S. saw 90 declarations of major weather disasters last year. That is well above the average of 55. The President of the United States declares a major disaster anytime an event surpasses the ability of state and local governments to respond. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says 27 of last year's weather and climate disasters caused more than $1 billion in damages. 41% of the U.S. population live in a county where a major disaster was declared last year. That certainly includes Nebraska, which saw multiple disaster declarations approved for straight-line winds and tornadoes in Douglas and Washington counties last spring, tornadoes and flooding in southeast Nebraska over the summer, and widespread storms in central and eastern Nebraska in May and June of last year. Well, this week marks 73 years since a brutal triple homicide sent shockwaves through the Sandhills. And a new book examines the case and how 12 hours changed the region's history. Casey Wanenberg sat down with the author and has more.
What happened in this house in the Nebraska Sandhills near the peaceful Niobrara River has been whispered about for decades, passed down from generation to generation, but rarely spoken about publicly.
This is the Mensinger Ranch south of Merriman.
That is, until now.
A lot of people were upset that I brought it back up, but I felt like historically it was something that would be important for generations to come.
Harlan Wheeler has spent the past 15 years researching a horrific triple murder that took place south of the tiny town of Merriman 73 years ago this week.
Everyone went into a panic. And to a person, I can say everyone that was living through that experience, they can tell me where they were when they heard the news.
Take a look at this picture of the Mensinger family. George and Elaine proudly sitting with their parents and baby boy.
But look how happy they are. I mean, they were so excited to have a grandson.
But shortly after this picture was taken, everything changed.
It impacted this sleepy little area.
In March 1952, local ranch hand Blaine Ellis,
this is where he came,
shot and killed George. Elaine, clutching her baby, ran for the phone, but Ellis killed her too and shot 9-month-old Fritz in the neck, arm, and back.
Miraculously survived because of one chapter I titled, "The Community Heard a Baby Crying." That little child was crying and she had rung the ringer on the phone and it woke everybody up. It was a party line. So everyone on that party line heard that ring, and that was an emergency ring. And then as soon as she rang it, he shot her the second time and killed her and wounded the baby, who had his arm around her neck. Threw the baby against the wall and she collapsed and died. But the phone was dangling and still alive. And so everybody deduced, where was the baby? Who had a baby on this line? And it came to the Mensingers.
Alarmed neighbors rushed to the Mensingers.
They lived right down the road.
But Ellis then shot and killed one of them and injured another. The community quickly rallied.
I've had estimates of 50 to 100, 200 people showed up. My father flew in with a friend of his. There were planes out in the pasture.
After an extensive search and a brief escape, Ellis was surrounded in a shed.
This was probably the last posse ever formed. They just called out for anybody who was willing to get a gun and head south, and they did.
Ellis was eventually killed, but not before confessing to the murders.
Started a fire in his car.
But as for why Wheeler thinks he did it,
the guy that beat him up,
you'll have to read his new book, The 12 Hours That Changed the Sandhills Forever.
And why I go so far as to suggest it changed, it did in many ways. People locked their cars, locked their doors. I've heard so many stories about kids could not sleep alone for months after this. Everyone got a yard light that no one had before. You know, it was just kind of an event that the innocence and the trust was really challenged.
A crime that once captured statewide and even national attention, and here locally, decades later, the house still stands, a quiet witness to the tragedy that once shook this peaceful land. South of Merriman, Casey Wanenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
An annual Nebraska Comedy Festival returns this summer with featured acts with ties to The Tonight Show and Saturday Night Live. Organizers of the Great American Comedy Festival announced their headliners on Wednesday. Their Friday show, June 13th, will be headlined by comedian and impressionist James Austin Johnson, marking the first time an active cast member of Saturday Night Live has performed at the festival. Saturday, June 14th's headliner will be legendary comedian Yakov Smirnoff, whose 40-year-plus career includes multiple appearances on The Tonight Show, hosted by Johnny Carson. The festival itself will be held June 12th through the 14th in Carson's hometown of Norfolk. Tickets are on sale at GreatAmericanComedyFestival.com. And finally, some Northeast Nebraska classrooms bursting with color and hope thanks to a promotion by a Norfolk car dealership. Students in Randolph Public Schools participated in Cornhusker Nissan's Colors of Hope, returning coloring sheets to win cash donations for their schools and contribute to a greater cause. Each sheet turned in not only brought joy to their classrooms, but also raised $10 for St. Jude during the recent US 92 St. Jude Radiothon.
We would like to give your school $500.
The kids that are at St. Jude's, most of them are about this age that are affected by the cancer. So this really sends a message to these kids that are at St. Jude's, letting them know that the kids back home care about them and know what they're going through. So this was really heartwarming to see the kids get involved. And for a small school like Randolph School to beat out all of these other schools and be the #1 as far as the number of coloring sheets that were turned in is just amazing.
Feels really good. It shows our kids about how to give back to other kids and help out in the community. We're always looking for service projects to do with our students. When we heard about this, we thought this would be a great opportunity for our students to volunteer some of their time and to help other kids.
Organizers at radio station US 92 say Randolph Elementary had more entries than 9 other Northeast Nebraska schools. And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. This is News Channel Nebraska.